Oh, you're here. Good. I was hoping for company. You see, I've got stories, dark ones, chilling ones, the kind that keep you up at night. Mythical creatures, curses, horrors you can't escape. Shall we begin? Don't worry, I won't bite. Much.
The hospital room was filled with the sharp scent of disinfectant. The night outside was dark and heavy, pressing down like a silent witness to the scene unfolding inside. Tears welled up in my eyes as I sat beside my husband, Michael Carter, who lay weakly on the hospital bed. His once strong body had been reduced to skin and bones, ravaged by illness. He could no longer speak, his voice lost to the final stages of cancer, but his eyes, those deceitful, lying eyes, were still filled with tears as they gazed at me. I smiled at him, my voice gentle, as if whispering a lover's promise. "Michael, don't worry. I'm here. I'll take care of everything." His frail fingers trembled slightly, then slowly loosened, slipping from my grasp like sand through my fingers. I glanced at the heart monitor. The steady beeps turned into a single, unbroken line. He was dead. The nurse walked in, checked his vitals, and noted the time of death. She then informed the morgue staff to come collect the body. I wiped away my tears, took a deep breath, and allowed a small, satisfied smile to curl at the corners of my lips. Finally, it's over. The morgue workers arrived quickly, eyeing Michael's body in the hospital gown. "You didn't change him into burial clothes?" one of them asked. Without hesitation, I pulled out a stack of $100 bills, placing them discreetly into their hands. "Thank you for your help. Please make sure he's properly dressed in these." The moment the money touched their palms, their demeanor changed. Their weariness vanished, and they moved with renewed energy, carefully dressing Michael's lifeless body in the funeral clothes I had prepared. I, on the other hand, played my part perfectly. I sobbed uncontrollably, swaying as if I was on the verge of collapsing from grief. Once everything was settled, I followed the stretcher down to basement level 2, where his body was placed in cold storage. Then I made a call. "Hello, is this Lakeside Crematorium? How soon can you process a body?" The man on the other end hesitated. "The earliest available slot is at 5:30 a.m., but we've already got a long queue." I tapped on my phone and sent $2,000 instantly. "I need my husband cremated first thing in the morning." After a brief pause, the man responded with an eager chuckle. "Understood. Consider it done." Everything had to proceed according to my plan. At 4:30 a.m., the funeral van arrived on time. I watched as Michael's body was loaded inside, then quietly followed in my car. Once at the crematorium, I distributed envelopes of cash to the staff handling the process. They were pleased, moving with the efficiency of men who had been well compensated. Less than 2 hours later, Michael was reduced to nothing more than a small box of ashes. I carried the urn home, took a long shower, applied light makeup, dressed appropriately, and drove to my in-laws' house. As soon as I walked through the door, I spoke calmly. "Mom, Dad, Michael is gone." His mother, Margaret Carter, froze for a second before letting out a piercing wail, clutching at her chest as she screamed in anguish. You cremated him without telling us? How dare you, you cold-hearted woman!" His father, Richard Carter, stood stiffly, his face dark with rage. Without warning, he lunged forward and slapped me twice, hard enough that my vision blurred. My head slammed against the wooden doorframe, and a sharp pain bloomed across my forehead as warm blood trickled down. I didn't react with fear or shock. Instead, I wiped the blood off my face with my sleeve and pulled out my phone. My voice was as steady as ever. "Hello, police? I need to report an assault. My father-in-law just physically attacked me." The police arrived within minutes, Seeing the cut on my forehead, they immediately advised me to go to the hospital for a medical report and arrested Richard on assault charges. Margaret screamed and tried to stop them, but laws don't bend for grief. Before leaving, one of the officers gave me a long look and said, "Legally speaking, you had the right to handle your husband's funeral, but morally, you should have informed his parents first. They lost a son." I lowered my gaze, hiding the smirk playing on my lips. When they conspired against me, did they ever consider how I felt? Once the commotion settled, I returned home, switched off all the lights, and sat alone in the dark. My mind drifted back to a few months ago, to the moment I first realized my marriage was a complete lie. It was an ordinary night when I was going through some of Michael's documents, casually organizing them like a dutiful wife. Then, I saw it. A property deed. Under buyer, it listed Michael Carter. Under co-owner, it listed another woman's name, Emily Reed. My fingers turned ice cold. Emily, I knew that name. She wasn't some stranger. She was Michael's business partner, the CEO of a well-known advertising firm. I had met her several times at corporate events. She had always been gracious, polite, and friendly. She even toasted to my marriage, complimenting me on how lucky Michael was to have such a devoted wife. And yet, her name was on $1 million house alongside my husband's. A creeping dread settled in my chest as I immediately went through his bank statements. There it was. Repeated large transfers, amounts ranging from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. The transaction notes read, living expenses, tuition fees, mortgage payments. One line in particular sent a chill down my spine. Tuition fees 6 years ago. 6 years ago. We had only been married for 1 year. My heart pounded violently. I flipped through more documents, my hands shaking, until I found it. A birth certificate. Under mother, it read, Emily Reed. Under father, it read, Michael Carter. I felt my stomach drop. Michael had been lying to me for years. Before we were even married, he had already fathered a child with another woman. And while I supported him, helped build his business, and poured my love and money into our life together, he had been slowly, meticulously preparing to replace me. His love, his kindness, his care, all of it was a lie. And the worst part? The fake divorce he proposed wasn't to protect me. It was a trap. Just 2 weeks ago, he had taken my hands in his and looked at me with fake concern. "Darling, the company is in trouble. We have a lot of debt. If we get a temporary divorce, you won't be liable. It'll keep you safe. Once things are stable, we'll remarry." I promise if I had signed that document, I would have lost everything. The debts? Fake. The financial crisis? Staged. The moment I signed, I would have been left with nothing. No money, no home, no security. And he would have married Emily immediately, making sure their illegitimate son inherited everything. I had been his tool, his stepping stone, but he underestimated me. Because I don't just let people betray me, I destroy them. I once believed I had married for love, but the truth was far more brutal. I had married a fraud. The moment I found that property deed and the birth certificate of his illegitimate child, the world I had carefully built around my so-called marriage collapsed in an instant. But what shattered me the most was that Michael didn't just want to betray me, he wanted to completely ruin me. "Honey, let's get a divorce. It's just temporary, I promise." 2 weeks ago, Michael sat beside me, holding my hands with an expression full of tender concern. He claimed the company had financial problems and that some unexpected debts might put both of us at risk. To protect me, he suggested we temporarily divorce so that I wouldn't be legally responsible. "It's just a formality," he assured me. "As soon as the situation stabilizes, we'll remarry." At the time, I almost believed him. I nearly signed that piece of paper, thinking it was for my own protection. But now, I finally understood. His fake divorce was never about shielding me from financial ruin. It was about making me walk away with nothing. Michael was not just a cheating husband. He was a master manipulator, someone who knew how to legally erase any trace of his wrongdoings. When I looked into his financials, I realized something chilling. He barely had any assets left in his name, and yet, he lived like a king. Luxury watches, designer suits, expensive cars. His lifestyle was more extravagant than ever. So, where had all the money gone? I dug deeper, and what I found sent a fresh wave of fury through me. Michael had used 3 primary methods to quietly strip away every last cent of our shared assets. First, using the company to launder money. He created fake business contracts transferring money from our company to Emily Reed's advertising firm under the guise of marketing expenses. On paper, it looked like legitimate business transactions. In reality, it was nothing more than a well-disguised gift to his mistress. Second, offshore shell companies. Michael set up a fake investment firm overseas, funneling funds through strategic investments. The company had no actual business operations, just an account that slowly drained our marital assets into his personal offshore accounts. By the time I found out, millions had already disappeared. Third, creating fake debts. One document stood out from the rest, an official-looking loan agreement. The lender, Michael Carter; the borrower, Emily Reed. A total of $1.2 million. On the surface, it looked like a legitimate loan, but in reality, Michael never expected Emily to pay him back. It was just another way to move money into her hands without raising suspicion. The more I dug, the more I realized Michael wasn't acting alone. His parents were part of this. At first, I thought my in-laws, Margaret and Richard Carter, were just blindly defending their son, that they were ignorant of his betrayal. I was wrong. They knew everything. And worse, they helped him. Margaret had long accepted Emily as her real daughter-in-law. She had been secretly visiting Emily's child, bringing gifts and telling him bedtime stories while completely ignoring the fact that I existed. Richard, on the other hand, had done something even more despicable. He helped Michael fabricate financial crises, signing off on fake company debts and shady investments that would later be used as evidence against me in the fake divorce settlement. They didn't just want me gone, they wanted me destroyed. Margaret had once said to me, "Men will be men. You just have to be more understanding." I used to think she was a kind mother-in-law, offering me sincere marital advice. Now I understood. She was preparing me for my own downfall, for the moment they would finally push me out of the picture and hand everything to Emily and her son. But they underestimated me. I don't let people play me like a fool. If they thought they could get rid of me so easily, then they had no idea who they were up against. I didn't expose them right away. I waited. While Michael was dying in his hospital bed, I worked in the shadows, setting up a counterattack they would never see coming. I used my legal rights as his wife to quietly modify the company's ownership records, making myself the primary inheritor. The moment he died, his remaining assets would automatically transfer to me, completely cutting out Emily and my in-laws. I collected every piece of damning evidence: the fake contracts, the hidden offshore accounts, the fraudulent loan agreement with Emily. I made sure that if anyone tried to take legal action against me, I had proof that they were the criminals, not me. Michael's condition had been stable, thanks to the expensive herbal treatments I had been personally preparing for him. But after learning the truth, I slowly changed the ingredients. I didn't outright poison him. No, that would have been too obvious. Instead, I removed the key medicinal herbs that were keeping his cancer under control, replacing them with substances that weakened his immune system. He had no idea, Even in his final days, he looked at me with tears in his eyes, whispering how grateful he was that I stayed by his side. And I did. I held his hand. I kissed his forehead. I smiled at him. And I watched him die. Michael's death was just the beginning. As expected, Margaret and Richard Carter were furious when they learned I had cremated him without their permission. Richard's rage led to him assaulting me, which resulted in his immediate arrest. But the real masterpiece was what came next: the war between Margaret and Emily. After Michael's death, I anonymously leaked all his financial crimes and infidelity scandals to the media. The news spread like wildfire. Public outrage erupted, and suddenly, the Carter family name was in ruins. With Michael dead, Margaret and Emily both thought they could claim his remaining assets. What they didn't realize was that I had already secured everything under my name. When Margaret discovered that Emily had secretly siphoned extra money for herself, she sued her for inheritance fraud. Emily, in turn, countersued Margaret, claiming she had been misled into thinking she would inherit everything. Their legal battle became a public spectacle. By the time the courts were done with them, both of them were left with nothing. Now, I stand by my window, looking out at the sunrise. Michael is gone. His parents are ruined. Emily has lost everything. And me. I am the only one left standing. They thought I was weak. They thought they could use me and throw me away. They were wrong. Because I don't just survive, I win. And I never leave my enemies unpunished. The game is over.